Hi, I'm Zena from Climate Action Leicester and Leicestershire, and we are one of the 31 local organisations who've joined the WarmHomesLeics coalition. We've made this video for you because we want to explain some of the many reasons why it's so important that our government puts in place a street-by-street insulation programme. These reasons are about fuel poverty, they're about inequality, they're about reducing pressure on the NHS and boosting the economy, they're about tackling the climate crisis. But underlyingly, these reasons are about helping people, supporting people and treating people as valuable across Leicester and Leicestershire, across the UK and across the world.
So you can't focus when all you're thinking about is how cold you are and how cold it is at night and how you can't keep the heating on and if you've got anything in the kitchen cupboard.
People from ethnic backgrounds tend to live in very deprived areas, so where the houses are not very well insulated, so they're paying more than average household trying to heat and cool their homes.
It's 1 in 4 children in Leicester living in poverty. So that means children living in cold, damp, unhealthy homes, which is a tragedy and not necessary.
While at demonstration, I spoke to a disabled man who was on benefits and in social housing, so he should have everything he needed. But he was having to wear winter clothing inside his own home, eating uncooked beans out of a tin, and maybe he'd turn the heating on for 10 minutes twice a day to stop from freezing. He was supported by the system, but he was still struggling every day.
Fuel poverty is really affecting my life right now because my mom has to always choose between putting on the heating or saving enough money so that we have enough food to eat in the house or enough money for transport to get to school. And because it's just really cold, and some days you just can't stay in a house that's cold, so she has to put on heating.
Fuel poverty is something that's really impacting so many people that I know here in the UK. I recently met a family who are really struggling with their energy bills. It's a family of 4, 2 young children, and the cost of heating the home is so high that they just don't turn on the heating. The house is full of mould, it's full of damp, it's full of condensation. You just feel so bad for these families that they shouldn't be living in such dark conditions in 2024. We're a developed country, we should be doing better, and there is a solution to this. Insulating people's houses, investing in renewable energy, and even having a social tariff. All of these things can make a huge difference to the lives of so many people here in the UK.
Your house is well insulated, then you need less energy to heat it in the winter. And in the summer, if there are heat waves, your house won't heat up as quickly, so you'll be better protected.
Research has shown that not being able to afford to heat or cool your home to a safe temperature can impact pre-existing conditions to worsen, such as existing heart, lung and mental health conditions.
In some parts of the world, climate change is already making it really difficult for people. Droughts and heat waves are causing people's crops to fail, so they're having to leave their land. And floods and other extreme weather are destroying whole communities. It's the people who have done the least to cause the problem who are suffering most from the consequences. And that pattern is replicated here in the UK as well. It's generally the poorest people with the smallest carbon footprints who suffer the most in heat waves, for example. They're most likely to become ill. And that's just completely unfair.
In my community, we're already seeing the impacts of climate change due to increased flooding and more people being affected on a more regular basis by floods across Leicestershire.
We work a lot with young Hindus, and what we've found is there's increasing levels of eco-anxiety. The way we're heading, the future is really bleak.
Today's teenagers will be the victims of government inaction.
The Catholic Church works with refugees, and we're seeing more and more of them because of the climate crisis. My community and friends in the Philippines, which are mostly Catholic, have been devastated by Typhoon Odette a couple of years ago, which is caused by climate change. And their homes were destroyed, livelihoods gone, even access to basic water was very difficult.
Global warming, which is warming the seas, creating these big wind events, which will get worse as the time goes on.
I have a number of relatives and friends in India who are already suffering from the devastation of climate change. Heat waves are becoming more and more intense and frequent in the summer. So if you're working on a farm, if you're working outdoors, the summers are becoming just completely unbearable.
As someone who was sexually abused as a child, I know what it's like to have climate change in my case, making my mental health worse. I live with anxiety, I live with nightmares, and severe heat and high winds both make those much worse. So the increased high winds and heat waves that we have had over the last few years have really made my life much more difficult.
We're experiencing more heat waves in Britain at the moment, and I can tell you firsthand, being pregnant in the middle of a heat wave and trying to cool your home down is not a fun experience. In a poor insulation house, it gets really, really hot. There's no good cooling methods, so it was a very difficult time being pregnant in a heat wave.
If we're going to cope with the changing needs as a result of climate change, the more extreme weather events, and the economic impact that this is having across the board, political leaders can't overlook these very basic needs of a large number of people in the communities that they represent.
What we'd like to see is for the government to take responsibility for making the homes warmer and to tackle the issue of insulating homes on a street-by-street basis, not just piecemeal.
Those jobs of insulation, hopefully, will be skilled, well-paid jobs that our members will have. The whole programme of insulation will have a great effect on the economy wider, because more jobs, better paid jobs, will have a positive impact on the whole economy.
The most effective way to tackle both climate change and fuel poverty is to insulate the huge number of poorly and in many cases uninsulated houses in this country. As someone running for election, please would you sign the Warm Homes Pledge and act in Parliament to make sure that the next government sets up a home insulation program, funds a home insulation program, street by street, starting in areas with the highest levels of fuel poverty. It would make such a huge difference to so many people, both in the UK and across the world.